Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Sometimes moving out of the apartment is a whole disaster. Let's start with the story in which our OP got into a situation in which it was hard to get away with it. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Moving out. I rented an apartment for about 7 years. At one stage, I asked my building manager if I can paint a wall, and she says it's fine as long as it's painted back to white before I leave. The building manager was always a bit difficult, but I'm an easygoing guy, so we never had any major issues. Fast forward and buy a house, so it works out I'm going to move out on the 20th of the month rather than the end of the month that I've paid for. I give proper notice, to month's end, to the manager, but let her know I'm moving out early and we can do the inspection on the 21st after I paint the wall, etc. She told me not to worry about the wall as the apartment was due for a reno, so new floors, cabinets, and painting was happening on the 21st through 24th, and the new tenant was moving in early on the 25th. You can see where this is going. Well, I move out on the 21st late in the day and invite her to do an inspection. I've taken great care of the place, but she gets her inspection done and lets me know that she's keeping my damage deposit, a full month's rent, because I never filled the holes where some pictures were hanging and the wall was not white. Me. But you said not to worry about the wall. Her. Do you have that in writing? Your lease says walls have to be white when you leave. Me. No worries, I'll make sure to paint that wall and fill the holes in the next week or so. You can come back on the 31st. Her. But I have workmen coming tomorrow. You said you were moving out today. Me. Do you have that in writing? She ended up writing me a check for the damage deposit and a refund of 1 week rent before I left that night. For the record, as she'd pulled this move with other people who'd moved out, I was calm as a cucumber when she tried to rip me off, as I knew I had the upper hand and already thought of what I would say and ask for if she did try to screw me. I love that you were able to throw her own words back in her face in what must have been under 10 seconds. Some people really don't think through the implications of their choices. And our second story. Parking spot revenge. About 2 years ago, I bought a house that's somewhat close to our hospital in town. I don't have a driveway, so I park in front of my house on the street. This isn't the greatest situation, but whatever, it is what it is. Well, I quickly found out that trying to find a parking spot when coming home was almost impossible, and I'd end up having to park 3 blocks away. This is a small town with free parking everywhere, and my street doesn't have much traffic. I started talking with all the neighbors and found out none of them were able to park on our street either, and that almost every resident was either having to park a few blocks down or don't own a vehicle themselves. It's the hospital employees that take up all the spots. Normally, I'd understand and just let it go, but I noticed the staff parking lot was always empty. This is an $8 a month parking lot, and there are signs everywhere. So that means I'm having to haul a carload of groceries 3 blocks after working all day, all because people are refusing to pay about 25 cents a day to park in their designated area. I eventually got home one day, right as someone was leaving the spot directly in front of my house, and I asked them if it was possible to park elsewhere, mostly just out of curiosity because the cars are always brand new, and I can't understand why someone who drives a new BMW would care about having to waste 25 cents on parking. She blew up at me, like as in full-on screaming. My neighbors were all out looking from their doors and windows in shock. That was the end of me being polite. I got the go-ahead from my neighborhood and decided to start messing with any vehicle that was parked there and owned by a hospital employee. Nothing bad, I just park close by at first and make their exit a pain in the butt, and slowly but surely started to bring somewhat of a fleet to take up the whole street. I'm part owner of an electrical company in town, and we have a few unused unmarked vans as well as cargo trailers, and I have a couple of older personal vehicles as well. Got to the point where I had 5 vans, my truck, car, Jeep, 2 cargo trailers lined up on the street parked extremely poorly. I essentially took up both sides of the entire block until my neighbors would come home, send me a text, and I'd let them in while moving one of the vehicles. It doesn't seem like a lot, but 10 or so extra vehicles taking up spots that normally 15 plus cars could fit made a huge difference. The streets around ours got more blocked, and eventually, one by one, all of those cars I came to loathe started parking in their designated lot. Sometimes I'd find a little car snuck in between two of my vehicles, so I'd just go ahead and park my two in even closer, making their escape difficult. I made it a bit of a sport, coming home from work, then sitting on my lawn drinking a beer, watching people scream bloody murder trying to get their cars out of these spots. Took about 2 months of me being the biggest a-hole to the hospital employees. I know, I'm a jerk. Until they pretty much all got parking passes. Now all my vehicles are gone and the street is super quiet. Every neighbor has a spot, and I haven't had to walk more than a half a block to get home in ages. Neighbor of the Year nominee. Not the hero they asked for, but definitely the hero they needed. And our final story. My fight with a poorly ran HOA. This happened a few years ago when I used to own a condo. I initially bought a condo from my older brother, who gave me a good deal since he got another job and had to move to another city halfway across the state. The HOA would not let him rent out the condo, so he sold it to me. After moving in and learning about how bad HOAs can be the hard way, I noticed that there's a problem with the foundation. There were some spots where there was a large noticeable gap between the wall and ceiling. All of the buildings had 4 condos each. I reported the issue to the HOA, and they never initially replied back about it. They decided to ignore the issue instead. Over time, I'd noticed that the cracks were getting bigger and occasionally heard popping noises at night coming from the attic. I've tried reporting the issue again, and the HOA simply ignored it again. I decided I'd like to sell the place and get out of there. Because of the foundation issue, nobody would want to buy it at the time. I'd also eventually met one of my neighbors who was also reporting similar foundation issues. Eventually, after enough complaints, the HOA board decided to finally start fixing the foundation issues. That's when I found out that at least 8 other buildings had similar foundation problems. They then issued my first special assessment at about $3,500. Everyone in the affected buildings had to pay the special assessment. They then started working on a couple buildings and fixed the foundation issues there. Then they stopped working on repairing any other buildings. It looks like the buildings that the board members lived in got fixed before they stopped. Something didn't seem right at all. After sending messages to the HOA board to ask why they stopped and when they will continue work, they ignored everything again. It looks like the HOA board decided to play games with fixing the buildings and tried to ignore the issue as much as possible while collecting special assessment payments. Also during this time, they kept also raising the monthly HOA fee as well. Around this time, I met some of my neighbors who also had foundation issues as well. One of them was a retired reporter who specialized in finding corruption in large corporations and government offices. She started to help us out with the legal issues to fight the HOA in court if it got to that point. Eventually, the HOA decided that they'll issue another special assessment for around $3,000 to help cover the cost of the foundation repair. During this time, the HOA ignored all questions about when the foundations will be fixed while collecting more money from special assessments. My neighbor got the rest of the neighbors in that building together for us to help fight the HOA. She wrote up letters demanding answers about when things will be fixed, and we'd all sign them to show the HOA that we're not playing games anymore. This went on for a while. Eventually, the property manager tried to actually claim that my building had no foundation issues. I decided to call a couple foundation repair companies and got some quotes for foundation repair. Apparently, the foundation sunk about 3 inches according to them. I then sent a copy of those estimates to the property manager. One of them was for over $10,000 just to fix my corner of the building. I was also threatening to have the foundation company fix it myself using the funds from the sale of the condo. The property manager was then forced to admit that there was a foundation problem in my building. Also during this time, my neighbor did talk to an HOA lawyer that specialized in going after abusive HOAs. She also called various local city offices as well. The city government actually stepped in and also threatened to sue the HOA. Around this time, the fire department came and inspected the building. What they found was very disturbing. The support beams for the roof were breaking. I was also sent pictures of the support beams. They were bending and starting to break. Code enforcement came by and also issued the HOA a fine. The HOA kept trying to play games and still refused to fix the building this whole time. That didn't work when the city manager's office threatened to sue the HOA on our behalf if they didn't fix the problem very quickly. The HOA finally got a foundation repair company to come check the foundation and fix it. They held a meeting for us with the foundation company to go over the repair process. That's when I found out that one of the units had the foundation sink as much as 6 inches. Also, after that meeting, we ended up getting a third special assessment for $2,500. After initially fixing the foundation issue, the HOA was also forced to replace the roof as well. All these repairs got very expensive for the HOA. Around the time they replaced the roof, I sold my condo and got out of there. During this entire time I had to fight the HOA, I had found out that they previously fired the last 2 property management companies. Also, the HOA board had been ignoring the foundation issues for at least 10 years. Eventually, the problems got so bad that it required the city to threaten to sue the HOA in order to get them to fix the problem. Also, during this time, the HOA actually tried to issue a $12,000 special assessment to everyone there. They tried to sneak it into a board meeting and hope that nobody found out about it until it was passed. What actually happened is that someone found out about that special assessment and put flyers on everyone's door telling them about it. The next meeting, a riot happened, and the $12,000 special assessment failed very badly. Most of the homeowners attended that meeting and let the HOA board know in a not-so-nice way that they didn't like that at all. Never mess with someone who has free time, motivation, and research skills. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.